Let that calm down. Thank you for the follow. So yeah, we're just doing the Active Directory Basics room. I can zoom that out actually, I can actually see. So yeah, doing group policies at the moment. And I've just upgraded everything, so you can clear that. That's the AD one that can get deleted.
Hello Raiders, welcome to MSec's Twitch channel.
Hello Raiders! So we were just doing the, as I was explaining, the Active Directory Basics room. So if you wanted to follow along, that's the room.
Thank you for the follow.
Thank you for the follow. And yeah, I was in Theo's stream earlier, so you all know Theo. We'll raid him back if he's back on in a minute. Just drop me a message, Theo, and I'll raid back. So we can get rid of that one. So yeah, we've got the Remina RDP client ready. Oh shiz! Yeah, so what I was doing, if I just go back a step.
Thank you for the follow.
Thank you for the follows. So in the learning paths, you've got which one was it? So I had done complete beginner. I noticed they've added loads of rooms to it, so I've now no longer completed complete beginner. So I had to go back and then do all these Windows exploitation basics that they added. So the one that I had left was Active Directory basics. Polar IQ. Let's. There you go. Pol's active. Right, so yeah, we're going to do... So far we've organised our users and computers into OUs just for the sake of it, but the main idea behind this is to be able to deploy different policies to each OU individually. That way we can push different configs and security baselines to users depending on their department. So the department we were actually given, so if we go back a step, was it this one? This one. So yeah, we were given this diagram of what the org should look like. If I dial into the admin box, you'll see. Where'd it go? There we go. So we had to build the AD to look like this to make sure it matched, and then we delegated the password resets to this OU to the Philip user because they're an IT. So that was what we did in this part of the task. And now we've got to do group policies. Hey, just a guy. I haven't got my text to speech on actually. Thank you for reminding me.
Connected to channel MSec.
Let's put some tunes on.
Herder of Cat says,
put Luna on the main screen and that poll will end positively. Smiley face.
Where's my music gone? There. I think it's up here. No, she's run off. She's run away.
Since when do you have music?
Always?
Just messing with you. Hungry face.
Alright. Should be loud enough without deafening me. Alright, so because Windows manages such policies through group policy objects, GPOs are simply a collection of settings that can be applied to the OU. GPOs can contain policies aimed at either users or computers, allowing you to set a baseline on specific machines and identities. To configure GPOs, you can use the Group Policy Management tool from the Start menu. Just that one.
Chip_Regal says,
So I'm just average? The truth stings my eyes.
Oh, I tied.
Thank you for the follow.
I don't know if that's good or bad if I tied. I can turn it off if it's offending everyone. I'll just... There we go. Alright. So the first thing that you'll see when opening it is your complete OU hierarchy as defined before. To configure the group policy...
says,
Hey.
Hey, hey!
Herder of
We need to
Cats
see you
says,
struggling,
We
I
need
think.
to see you all struggling.
Configure the group policy, you'll first create a GPO under the group policy objects and then link it to the GPO where you want the policy to apply. As the example, you can see there are some already existing GPOs in your machine. So,
Hey, it's yours and Lux.
we've got those three. We've got a default policy, an RDP policy, and we've got a default domain controller policy.
Thank you for the follow.
Thank you for the follow. So we've got that one. GPOs are created in the GPO.
Where are your brains, in your ass?
They are in my ass. We can see that the images above that have 3 GPOs created from those the default domain policy and the RDP policy are linked to the THM.local domain. The default domain controllers policy is linked to the domain controller.
Sound Alert says,
Jolio played hackers. Where are your brains? For 0 bits.
Herder of Cats says,
Lol.
My bad, trying out.
Mario says,
My bad. Was trying it out.
Yeah, so we've got sound commands you can use. I usually have... They're not active at the moment, but I've got... If I'm doing a box that can be deactivated, there's a bot that will run and basically monitor like the redemptions, and you can redeem the box being terminated. So if I'm halfway through a room, you can just kill it, and I get no say in it, it just does it. Something important to have on your mind is that any GPO will apply to the linked OU and any sub-OUs under it. For example, the sales OU will still be affected by the default domain policy. So if we examine the default domain policy to see what's inside of a GPO, we can look at the first tab you see when selecting is the scope. This is where the GPO is linked in the AD. For the current policy, we'll see that it's only been linked to the THM local domain. As you can see, you can also apply the security filtering to GPO. It's down here. So that they only apply to specific users' computers under an OU. By default, they'll apply to the authenticated users group, which includes all users and PCs. The settings tab includes the actual contents of the GPO and lets us know what specific configuration it applies to. As stated before, each GPO has configurations that apply to computers only and configurations that apply to users only. In this case, the default domain policy only contains computer configurations. So there's no users and no settings defined. Feel free to explore the GPO and expand on the available items using the show links on the right side of each configuration. In this case, default domain policy indicates really basic configurations that should apply to most domains, including password and account lockout policies. So, show account. So these are applied across the domain. You must have 24 passwords remembered, maximum password age 42, minimum 1 day, maximum length 7 characters, must meet a complexity requirement, and it has to store it using reversible encryption. It's disabled. So, since the GPO applies to the whole domain, any change to it will affect all computers. Let's change the minimum password length to require at least 10 characters. To do this, we right-click the GPO and select Edit. Don't know if that actually did anything. This will open a new window. To change the minimum password length, go to... This is... Oh, okay, just open a new group policy editor. So we go to... Policies... Windows... Security... Account... Password policy, and then we change 7 days to 10. As you can see, that plenty of policies can be established in GPO while explaining every single...
says,
Jolio played Windows 10 admin for 0 bits.
Let's stop sound alert talking on top. Okay. So if more, as you can see, plenty of policies established in a GPO while explaining every single of them would be impossible in a single room. I do feel it important to explore a bit. As you see, some policies are straightforward. More information on any of these policies is needed. You can double click them and read the Explain tab on each of them. So we can, is it just that one, password length? Oh no, it was properties, wasn't it? Property... Explain, there we go. So GPO distribution. GPOs are distributed on the network via a network share called sysvol, which is stored in the DC. All users in the domain would typically have access to this share over the network to sync their GPOs periodically. The sysvol share point by default to C Windows sysvol on each of the DCs in our network. Once the change has been made to any GPO, it might take up to 2 hours for the computers to catch up. If you want to force any particular computer to sync its GPO immediately, you can always run the following command on the desired computer. gp update/force. As part of our new job, we've been tasked with implementing some GPOs to allow us to block non-IT users from accessing the control panel, make workstations and servers lock their screen automatically after 5 minutes, and this will avoid people leaving their session exposed. So if we focus on each of those and define what policies should enable in each GPO where they would be linked, to restrict the access to the control panel across all machines to only the users that are part of the IT department, users on the other department shouldn't be able to change the system preference. If we create a new GPO called Restrict User Control Panel Access, let's copy that. So, new. Guess we don't need a starter. Since we want this GPO to apply so how do I tell if that's doing what it should do? Group policy management editor. Okay, there we go. So I guess maybe I should have done it in there. Or do I edit it like that? Yeah. We can get rid of that one. So we want this to apply to specific users. If we look under user config, then we should have admin, control panel, and then prohibit access to the control panel and PC settings. So we enable that. And then notice that we have enabled the prohibit access to control panel and PC settings policy. Once the GPO is configured, we'll need to link it to the OU corresponding to the users who shouldn't have access to the control panel. In this case, we'll link it to marketing, management, and sales by dragging the GPO into each of them. So we go and close the editor, and so we can drag that into management, marketing, and sales. So that should have applied yet. And to auto-lock the screen for the first GPO regarding screen locking the workstation server, we could directly apply it over workstation servers and domain controllers. While this solution would work, an alternative consists of simply applying the GPO to the root domain, as we want it to affect all the computers. Since workstation servers and DCs are all child OUs of the root, they'll inherit the root policy. You might notice that if the GPO is applied at the root domain, it will also be inherited by other OUs like sales, marketing. Since these OUs contain users, any computer configuration in our GPO will be ignored. So let's create a new GPO called auto-lock screen, and we'll edit it. Did it give me the editor? Edit. Okay. So this time we want to go into the computer config. We're going to do a policy in Windows. We're going to do security, local policy, security config. And interactive logon, machine inactivity limit. 300 seconds, not minutes, Jesus. So this is 5 minutes. The computer will get locked automatically if the user leaves their session open after closing the GPO editor. We have to link the GPO to the root domain by dragging the GPO to it. So the root at the top. Once the GPOs have been applied to the correct OUs, we can log in as any users in marketing, sales, or management. To verify this, we can use this for the task. So we need my Reminer. Let's copy Sophie. And password marketing 21. And log in as Mark. Cool, so if we try to open the control panel, we should get a message to indicate that the operation was denied. So where's the control panel? This has been cancelled due to restrictions in effect on the computer. Please contact your sysadmin. Nice. We should also get You can wait 5 minutes to check for the screen to be automatically locked if you want. Since we didn't apply the GPO on IT, you should still be able to log in to the machine as any of those users access the control panel. Thank you for the follow. Is that Diplo Heisenberg? So we don't need to test that the lockout works. You don't really need to force it if it didn't work, because it did work. What's the name of the network share used to distribute the GPOs to the domain machine? That was sysvol. Can a GPO be used to apply settings to users and computers? Yes. Alright, so next, disconnect mark. Right, so auth methods. Turn that down. When using Windows domains, all credentials are stored in the domain controller. Whenever a user tries to authenticate to the service using domain credentials, the service will need to ask the DC to verify if they're correct. Two protocols can be used for network auth in Windows domains. Kerberos. This is used in any recent version of Windows. It's the default protocol for any recent domain.
Thank you for the follow.
Thank you for the follow. NetNTLM is a legacy auth protocol left for compatibility reasons. While NetNTLM should be considered obsolete, most networks will have both protocols enabled. Let's take a deeper look at how both of them work. Kerberos Auth is the default authentication protocol for any recent version of Windows. Users who log into a service using Kerberos will be assigned tickets. Think of tickets as a proof of a previous authentication. Users with a ticket can present them to the service to demonstrate that they've already authenticated to the network before, and they are therefore enabled to use it. When Kerberos is used for authentication, the following process happens. Step 1. The user sends their username and a timestamp encrypted using a key derived from their password to the Key Distribution Center, the KDC. A service usually installed on the domain controller in charge of creating the Kerberos tickets on the network. The KDC will create and send back a ticket granting ticket, or a TGT, which will allow the user to request additional tickets to access specific services. The need for a ticket to get more tickets may sound a bit weird, but it allows users to request service tickets without passing their credentials every single time they want to connect to a service. Along with the TGT, a session key is given to the user, and they will need this to generate the following requests. Notice that the TGT is encrypted using the KRB TGT account. That's really important. Using that password hash. Therefore, the user cannot access its contents. It's essential to know what the encrypted TGT includes, a copy of the session key as part of its contents. So, step 1, you provide your username and a timestamp encrypted to the KDC. The KDC replies back with both its ticket, like its hash, and the user hash. You get your ticket granting ticket. This is encrypted using the KRB TGT hash. Thank you. And then your session key is encrypted with your password hash. So you'll be able to decrypt your session key. You won't be able to decrypt the ticket granting ticket. So the ticket granting ticket is still secured, but you've got it to pass on in future requests. When the user wants to connect to the service on the network, like a share, website, or database, they'll use their TGT to ask for the KDC for the ticket granting service. The TGS are tickets that allow connection only to a specific service that TGS was created for. To request a ticket granting service ticket, the user will send their username and a timestamp encrypted with the session key, along with the TGT. and the service principal name, which indicates what service and what server name that we want to access. As a result, the KDC will send us a TGS along with the service session key, and we'll need to authenticate to the service that we want to access. The TGS is encrypted using a key derived from the service owner hash. The service owner is the user or machine account that the service runs under. The TGS contains a copy of the service session key on its encrypted content so that the service owner can access it by decrypting the TGS. Try and close you down. Yeah, go away. Alright, there we go. So that is essentially saying that the client, so once you've gone through this process and you've got a session key, you use that session key to request another ticket. You provide it with the username timestamp from your session, you provide it the TGT, and you provide it the service name that you want to connect to, so in this case a SQL service running on whatever server it's on. The KDC then gives you back a ticket granting ticket. No, sorry, you get the TGS ticket, not the ticket granting ticket. You get the service ticket, which is encrypted with the service owner's hash so that only the server can access the TGS. And then this is again encrypted with your session key. So you can access the session key for the connection to the service, but only you can access that, and only the service can access that. The TGS can then be sent with the desired service to authenticate and establish a connection. The service will use its configured account password hash to decrypt the TGS and validate the service session key. So again, you provide it the session key that you've just obtained. That goes along with your username and a timestamp and the ticket that you got, and then the service will use that to authenticate you. For net NTLM, so the older standard, the obsolete standard, works by using a challenge response mechanism. The entire process is as follows. Step 1, the client sends an authentication request to the server that they want to access. My head's in the way. The server will then generate a random number which it sends to as a challenge to the client. The client combines their NTLM password hash with the challenge and any other known data to generate the response to the challenge, and it sends back as a server for verification. Step 4, the server forwards the challenge and the response to the domain controller for verification. The domain controller uses the challenge to recalculate the response and compares it with the original response by the client. If both match, the client is then authenticated. Otherwise, access is denied. The authentication result is sent back to the server. The server forwards the authentication result to the client. So, challenge response, another challenge response on the DC, and if it doesn't match, it says you're either in or you're out. Note that the user's password or hash is never transmitted through the network for security. The described process applies when using the domain account. If a local account is used, the server can't verify that the response to the challenge itself without requiring interaction with the domain controller, since it has the password hash stored locally on its SAN. So will a current version of Windows use NetNTLM as the preferred authentication mechanism? Nay, that's Kerberos. When referring to Kerberos, what type of ticket allows us to request further tickets known as the TGS? That is the server granting... No, wait. What type of ticket? Ticket. Is that right? Can't remember the bloody name. So that one? What's that? No. What type of ticket? It's the service ticket. Fuck off. So. It's not the ticket granting ticket, it's the ticket granting service. There we go, that's what I did wrong. Or not. Why doesn't it like that? What type of ticket allows us to request further tickets? Oh, no, this is the ticket granting ticket. This is the main one. Yeah. The ticker. Why did it accept? I fat fingered it. But yeah, this is the very first one you get, not the... for some reason I thought they meant the service ticket. It's the actual first ticket. When the net NTLM is the user's password transmitted over the network. No. Right, so then trees, forest, trusts. So far we've discussed how to manage a single domain, the role of the domain controller, and how it joins computers and servers. As companies grow, so do their networks. Having a single domain for the company is a good start, but in some time, additional needs might need you to push into having more than one domain. Trees. If you imagine, for example, that suddenly your computer expands into a new country, the new country has different laws, different regulations that require you to update your GPOs to comply. In addition, you now have IT people in both countries, and each team needs to manage the resources that correspond to each country without interfering with the other team. You could create a complex OU structure and use delegations to achieve this. Having a huge AD structure might be hard to manage and will be prone to human error. Luckily for us, Active Directory supports integrating multiple domains, so you can have a partition for your network into units that will be managed independently. If you have two domains that share the same namespace, so THM in our example, those domains could be joined in a tree. If our THM local domain was split into two subdomains for the UK and a US branch, you could build a tree with the root of the domain THM local and two subdomains called uk.thm.local and us.thm.local. Each has its own AD, computers, and users. This partition structure gives us better control over who can access what in the domain. The IT people from the UK will have their own DC that manages UK resources. For example, a UK user would not be able to manage the US users. In that way, the domain administrator of each branch will have complete control over their respective DC, but not the other branch. Policies can also be configured independently for each domain in the tree. A new security group needs to be introduced when talking about trees and forests, the enterprise admin group. This will grant a new user administrative privileges over all of the enterprise's domains. Each domain will still have its domain admins with administrator privileges over the single domain. The enterprise admin can control everything in the enterprise. And then forests, so the domains that manage can also be configured into different namespaces. Suppose your company continued growing and eventually acquires another company called MHT. Both companies merge and you'll probably have different domain trees for each company, each managed by its own IT department. The union of several trees with different namespaces into the same network is known as a forest. So you can see the difference. So they've just got different namespaces. This one's in UK, this one's in US, this one's in the EU, and this one's in Asia. Having multiple domains organized in trees and forests allows you to have a nice compartmentalized network in terms of management and resource. At a certain point, a user in the UK THM might need to access a file in the MHT Asia server. For this to happen, domains arranged in trees and forests that are joined together by trust relationship. In simple terms, having a trust relationship between domains allows you to authorize a user from the domain THM to access resources from the domain MHT. The simplest trust relationship that can be established is a one-way trust relationship. In a one-way trust, if the domain AAA trusts the domain BBB, this means that the users on BBB can be authorized to access resources on AAA. The direction of the one-way trust is contrary to that of the access direction. Two-way trust relationships can also be made to allow both domains to mutually authorize its users from one to the other. By default, joining a domain under a tree will always form a two-way trust relationship. It's important to note that having a trust relationship between a domain doesn't automatically grant access to all resources on the other domains. Once the trust relationship is established, you have the chance to authorize users across different domains, but it's up to you to actually what is actually authorized or not. So what is the group of Windows domains that share the same namespace? That is a tree. And what should a configuration between two domains for the user in domain A to access domain B? A trust relationship. So just read it. Conclusion. So in this room we've shown the basic components and concepts related to Active Directory. Windows domains, keep in mind that this room should only serve as an introduction to basic concepts. There's a lot more to explore. If you're interested in learning more about the Active Directory installation, check out the Active Directory hardening room, which is to be TBC. On the other hand, if you'd like to know how attackers take advantage of common AD misconfigurations, you can see the compromising AD module. Yay. Stop the box. I think I've already done the compromise one. If not, I've definitely done it before. Oh, it's a whole module. Nice. Okay, no, I haven't done them all then. Look at all that. So there's the link to that if you want to play with it.
Web link.
Alright, let's see what's next in my path. I've got to do the tutorial run. Right, the tutorial room is flag connection verified. Gosh, there we go, that was hard. Alright, what's next? Common Linux Privest. I swear I've done this one before. If not, I've done at least 2 other Privesks room.
Web link.
Thank you for the subscription.
Lottie, you didn't have to give the subs. Also, why is the chat showing me as a raider of my own channel? That's funny. Lottie, shout out.
Thank you for the subscription.
Oh, this is when you killed me in Minecraft.
Underscore
not?
was shot by Lotterkins.
She shot me with a crossbow.
Thank you for the subscription.
Sorry.
Yeah, you will be sorry.
Thank you for the subscription.
So, who got subs? Let's see. Lurking Guy, good. Congrats on the sub. Just a Guy, Stairs the Trashman. J Beers got one, and Paul Foxhound got one. So, enjoy the ad-free watching.